Corey Edwards coming into the game. If Waldo just goes straight up Kanoa, then that's not a foul. When he brings that right arm down, it absolutely is, and he has to be careful. That's 2 on him right now. But we see Corey Edwards come into the game, and I'm dating myself. Right? I coached against his father when his father played at Georgetown, and I had a great team at Georgetown. Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe Mutombo. Mark Tillman was the leading scorer in the Big East that year, and his dad was the point guard on that team. Later transferred out. We had a good team at Xavier, too. We were fortunate to beat that team in the Sweet 16. And Dave tells a story, or Corey tells a story that he's playing in the Summer League, the Kenner League, at Georgetown, and he ran in. He goes, "Hey, my dad played for you." And John Thompson, and I'm quoting him, I don't want to be too good, he goes, "Your dad?"
You would share a laugh. He said, "You know you're old when you've coached against the fathers of some of these guys."
Short clock. So some of his shots are desperation, causes the shot clock's winding down 5, 4, 3, and it hinders his shooting percentage.
Foul called against Jenkins. Yeah, Holt, a preseason all West Coast Conference selection. But a lot of pressure filling in for Matthew Dellavedova, now playing with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and a guy who didn't turn the ball over very often. May not have necessarily been the guy to always take the shot late in the clock, but he would usually set up somebody to take a quality shot. And turnovers have hurt this team. Against Hawaii, they turned it over 17 times.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You hit the nail on the head when you said Dellavedova controlled everything, didn't turn it over. 17 turnovers against Hawaii really hurt St. Mary's in that loss.
Carter penetrates deep and then turns it over. Holloway all the way to the hoop. Patrick Holloway, 19 points the opening night against Iowa State, and then 12 points against Oregon State yesterday. Both losses, but he's really starting to emerge as one of the go-to scorers for this Patriots team. Levesque, the hard drive, and he's fouled on the way down the lane. They get right on this one.
As we're seeing, as soon as that hand goes out, the left hand by Patrick Holloway, automatic foul with the new rules. And some of the fans are getting upset with the officials, but they're calling the game as they're told to call it with the new rule structure.
Holt open for 3 and hits.
On that shot, he's in rhythm, does his work early. His hands and feet are prepared before the ball gets to him.
44% three-point shooter, Stephen Holt.
Shooting better from behind the three-point line than overall.
Also had a season-high 8 assists to go along with 9 points in the loss against Hawaii the other day. So that's another encouraging statistic for head coach Randy Bennett and company. Allen, the riser. Nicely done.
And a perfect decision from Allen. That was exactly the right play to make. The big guy showed and then went back to his defender. He had a wide open middle jump shot, which he hit.
Allen, a senior from Largo, Maryland. Missed a couple of games after spraining his knee earlier this season against Lamar. Levesque left alone for 3. Knocked out of bounds, and it stays here with the Gales. 11:19 on the clock. 17-9, St. Mary's. On a beautiful Christmas morning in Hawaii.
Make a deep run in the NCAA tournament to the Sweet 16, possibly.
You saw the hardware that they will be playing for. Iowa State still among the nation's unbeaten teams. Holt looking to inbound, sends it to midcourt. Dangerous pass, goes out of bounds. That's a turnover. Good job by Brian Allen to disrupt things like a cornerback over there.
He did. And again, St. Mary's, one of the problems they've had in the tournament is turnovers. And you come out of a timeout with the baseline OB hoping to score, and you give it to the other team.
Here's Wright. Draws the double, and it's poked away by Walker. Now Holt clearing it for St. Mary's. The penetration, the kick. Giusti stepped on the sideline.
And Jeff Van Gundy, as we know, is a big advocate of widening the court. The guys are so much bigger, but you have to know where you are. Do your footwork inside the stripes, if you will. But Jeff talks a lot about that. The guys are so much bigger, so much faster that let's keep it at 94 feet long. Let's make it a little bit wider.
Yeah, he was almost in the front row with that foot when he received that pass, Jordan Giusti. And a whistle away from the basketball. It'll be an illegal screen set by the freshly inserted Eric Copes.
And you hate offensive fouls in particular because it takes away an opportunity to score the ball. I mean, it's almost like a 4-point turnaround.
Copes has just had a hard time staying on the floor, picking up 2 fouls very quickly here in this game. 0 points, 4 fouls. Foul trouble the entire game against Oregon State the other day.
He's had a little bit of adversity with the suspension, but this is a wonderful kid out of Imhotep Charter School in Philadelphia. Had one of the great runs in Philadelphia high school basketball history when Eric Copes was there. He's shooting 4 for 6 from the field this year. A monster defender. He blocks shots, finishes around the rim. His stats are deceiving because he don't have big numbers. They're not gaudy numbers. But this young guy right here is going to be a really good player in the Atlantic 10.
His uncle, Roland Houston, is an assistant coach for George Mason. George Mason, meanwhile, outscoring St. Mary's 6-3 since Brad Waldo sat down with his second foul.
And as a coach, that's a tough decision. Do I sit him the rest of the half? And Randy Bennett with an 8-point lead, he's okay with Waldo on the bench.
Walker bringing it up. St. Mary's shooting 63% to start this game. Turnover along the baseline that time, though, by Garrett Jackson. 5th turnover already for the Gales.
When they're not turning it over, they're scoring the basketball. The difference in the game thus far has been St. Mary's is 3-point shooting. 3 for 7 from the field, 9 points, and George Mason is yet to make a 3-point field goal.
First ever meeting between these two programs. That's been the case for George Mason throughout this tournament. It's been a first-time matchup each game of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, and that one knocked out of bounds off the right miss. Matt Hodgson, another Aussie, part of that St. Mary's Australia pipeline. 6'11" senior, fell to the deck, and it will stay here with George Mason.
Looks like he might have bumped his head a little bit on the floor, but they're short-handed at St. Mary's. They don't play with they don't have a lot of guys, not a lot of depth. And with Waldo in foul trouble, Hodgson needs to shake that off. They need him out there.
Played alongside the aforementioned Matt Dellavedova, also Mitchell Young, Jordan Page, another Aussie that was part of this St. Mary's program on the U19 Australian national team. And it's very interesting to see under Randy Bennett over the course of recent years, they have been able to absolutely exploit that connection with Australia, and it has served this program well.
A lot of great players down there, as we know. Patty Mills, Luke Longley was with the Bulls for a while. Very good basketball in Australia, and Randy Bennett has really taken advantage of it.
Nice maneuver that time by Williams, but the finish not there. Rebound Hodgson, and here comes Walker. Walker from mid-range, sent it too long, but it comes out to Carter, open for 3. Hodgson the offensive board, and they'll get another crack at it.
George Mason ball watching on the shots. They have to run to their man, put a body on him, and drive him out of the lane on box outs.
A lot of patience shown here on this trip down the floor by St. Mary's. Giusti turns the corner, gets deep. Jackson will get a look from the corner. And the rebound off the Holloway.
And that was a really good defensive possession by George Mason.
And a good fight underneath that time. as Gujanicic was able to get position against the much smaller Kerry Carter, who picks up his second foul.
And that's what Sherrod Wright has to do for this basketball team. It's not just score the ball. Recognize mismatches when we have them. Make the delivery, make the pass to the guy that's open.
Second foul on Carter, 6th team foul for St. Mary's. 5 on the other side for George Mason. Here's Gujanicic. He is a matchup problem when he gets it going. 6'8" sophomore from Serbia, averaging 10 points per game. Has struggled in this tournament, though, going for just 5 points per in the previous 2 outings.
He's a face-up four. He could shoot threes, step out.
Walker working against him.
And he did a pretty good job defending Walker right there for a big guy.
There's a kick by Wright on the pass by Giusti. 8:30 to go here in the first half. And with Waldo on the bench, Patriots have been able to inch a little bit closer to the Gales. Trailed by 11 at one point. It's an 8-3 run.
Well, we know everything St. Mary's does goes through that big fella sitting on the bench right now. So let's see other guys stepping up for St. Mary's with Waldo sitting with 2.
Walker. Not there the first time, but Hodgson with the tip-in.
And we created the tip-in for Hodgson on the penetration. His guy slid down to the baseline to help on the driver.
Here's Allen. Picks up the dribble. They're trying to work Williams down low. Gets his hands on it and finishes the deal.
And a wonderful delivery from Gujanicic. That pass is a difficult one to make over the top, but it was perfect from Marco.
Walker steps into one, and he drops it.
And defensively, Paul Hewitt is upset. Make sure someone's contesting shots. I don't care whether you're playing man-to-man zone. The biggest factor in any defense is a hand on the shooter.
The answer is there, though, from Patrick Holloway. He has 5 points. Holloway has had the hot hand here in Hawaii.
He wasn't averaging 7 points a game, and he comes to the tournament. He's getting 15-5 in his first 2 games.
Walker, can he do it again? It rims out on him. Great box out by Gujanicic.
Excellent box out.
Now Allen controls. Gets to the baseline, blocked by Hodgson, saves it on the baseline, but it goes to the Gales. Here's Walker. Hard drive to the rim. Can't close the deal.
Tough to close it when you get hammered like that. I don't know how that was not a foul. So we're calling hand checks as we should on the perimeter, but when guys are going to the basket, you have to protect the shooters as well.
Screen and roll. Gujanicic blocked up top by Hodgson. Hodgson, who comes into this game second on the team with 9 blocks on the year, averaging only 9 minutes per. But the guy can definitely create a little bit of havoc above the.
And Walker, to diversify his game a little bit, he's such a good three-point shooter. Once he develops that middle game and is able to put the basketball on the floor at a higher rate, he'll be tough to handle in conference play.
And out of the timeout, George Mason unable to inbound it, so they go into another timeout with 6:26 to go in the first half.
And that's the second time they've had to call a timeout. First time was against the full court pressure when they couldn't get the basketball in earlier in the first half. So those kill you a little bit because you're burning your timeouts. And here's one of the problems when you're in a tournament, Kanoa. They know George Mason's going to press. So if they had a 3 or 4 day preparation, they're working against it, they understand it. But right now, with on such a quick turnaround, the coaches don't have a lot of time to practice, obviously, and they've already played 2 games. So, you know, fresh legs and fresh minds are probably the most important thing, so you keep them off the court.
Interesting, the day off between rounds 2 and today's championship round. Obviously, yesterday on Christmas Eve, everyone giving way for the Sheridan Hawaii Bowl. But a lot of the teams didn't practice yesterday. They just decided to get away from basketball altogether to kind of just get that breath of fresh air, if you will.
And if you're from a coaching perspective, you let them step away. Now, they're going to have walkthroughs, of course, but as a coach, and all the teachers out there know, telling isn't teaching. You have to drill it, you have to practice it.
6 seconds to shoot. Williams does, and he knocks it down. And it is a 4-point game here at the Stan Sheriff Center. As George Mason continues to take advantage of Brad Waldo's time on the bench. Walker, that one well short, but an offensive board. Hustle play by Levesque. Walker from the other side. Hey, why not?
Can't give him that many looks. They have to make sure they match up. And the first one, mate, coming off of the press, a transition situation. But the second one, Paul Hewitt really unhappy with.
Already 6 3-point attempts for Walker. He's hit 3 of them. The miss along the baseline by Anale Okaloji there for George Mason. Knocked out of bounds, and it stays here with the Patriots. What about this early start time? It was a tip-off of 8:30 a.m. here in Honolulu, Hawaii. So obviously not a lot of time for any pregame shoot-around activity. How does that impact things?
Well, you saw what George Mason and St. Mary's both did. When I walked in the arena at 10 till 7 this morning, you heard the balls bouncing. Both teams were out here earlier. They had a walkthrough last night. George Mason, 4:45 wake up this morning. Pre-game meal at 5:30. So get to the gym early, get loose. I think both teams came out with nice energy, however, Cano. I really do. George Mason extending, and pressuring.
All the way at the line, and he knocks down the first. Yeah, some of that desperation seeping in, it seems. I mean, these are two teams hungry for a win. Obviously, you don't want to go winless in a tournament format like this. For George Mason, started the year 4-0. They've lost 6 of 7, and Paul Hewitt and company just trying to piece it back together.
A win chores all wheels.
It would be the best possible Christmas present for either of these teams. And there's a turnover. Here's Jenkins.
And you see Randy Bennett, unhappy with his offense, sends Brad Waldo to the table to check in with 5 minutes to play in the first half. And with 2 fouls.
Holloway missing on the runner. Some contact there. Looked at the official for a moment. No whistle, obviously. Holt now down the lane, and a foul on the drive.
Good call. Good call. He was riding him. That would have been a foul last year.
And Waldo does come in as Hodgson heads back to the bench.
Now you roll the dice a little bit with 2 fouls and bringing Brad Waldo back with 5 minutes to play. Up 5.
With Waldo on the floor, St. Mary's constructed an 11-point advantage. Levesque blocked. Great play by the freshman Marquise Moore. Since Waldo sat down, though, a 17-11 advantage for George Mason as Moore gives it right back.
And a lot of these unforced errors. Moore gets a little too deep and has nothing to do with the basketball. If he does penetrate that deep, sit down. In other words, bend your knees, gather yourself, pivot, and make the right pass out of the trap.
6 turnovers now for the Patriots. Here's Waldo, the lob pass to the rim. Caught by Jackson, came down with it, finds Walker in the corner, and 1 triple.
And you know what you like about St. Mary's? They look for this young guy right here. They know he could shoot it. Waldo, that's off the lob. The defense collapses, and a wonderful kick out from Garrett Jackson.
4th made 3-pointer here in this first half for James Walker III. And a chance to complete a rare 4-point play.
When Waldo threw the lob, everybody collapsed into the lane when the ball was in the air. And he kicked it right out to to James Walker.
How about Waldo and the freedom to throw the lob in transition?
Did you see when he threw it? He threw it though. He threw it and then he jumped because he wanted his buddy to get up and get it.
And having extended the lead back out to 9, Randy Bennett, 2 fouls on Waldo, decides to sit him back down.
Great coaching maneuver. Situational coaching, I like it.
Allen from the right corner. That one rims out. Tapped out to Holloway. And fresh 35 here for G. Mason.
And Jalen Jenkins did a nice thing. He couldn't secure the rebound, so when you're on offense, just tip it, keep it alive. One of his buddies got it.
Near turnover there. Here's Wright. That's a strong drive by Sherrod Wright. Had not scored single digits in any game until the Oklahoma game. 7 points. That was the game prior to the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic, and he has yet to find double digits scoring. But he's got 5 in this one.
Jenkins again with a nice tip to his teammate.
And an illegal screen set by Jalen Jenkins. 3:35 left to play here in the first half. St. Mary's up 7 here in Honolulu made, and that ties a single game career high.
Coach Hewitt was upset with Thomas Yoshida, the official there, for the block charge, or the block on the screen. Felt his guy was set. But we should tell guys, pop the floor on your screen so the official sees that you're set.
Walker again finding an open look, but that one missed badly.
We talked this the other day. We played against J.J. Redick at Duke. He was such a prolific three-point shooter. We would say, fellas, not if he makes one. If he shoots one, you're coming out. I think that's what Paul Hewitt is right now with James Walker.
Yeah, he just continues to find openings. It's amazing.
And he doesn't need much space. He has a quick release and really elevates on his shot.
Garrett Jackson picking up that last foul meanwhile. 18 fouls now for St. Mary's, and here is Wright at the free throw line. 6'4" senior from Mount Vernon, New York. He knocks it down. Second team All-Colonial Athletic Association last year, and a preseason second team All-Atlantic 10 this year. Of course, George Mason making the transition to the A-10 here for the 2013-2014 campaign.
And the reason for that is he's good at everything, but he's not great at any one thing. Like we're seeing James Walker's a great three-point shooter, but Sherrod Wright does a lot of things well. Nothing great, but that's what makes him a good basketball player. Very diverse offensive game.
And again, with Waldo on the bench, George Mason able to creep a little bit closer to St. Mary's. The differential is 5. Here's Holt, the kick out. Carter. Off the hesitation, the riser falls short. Now Edwards. Williams squares up good. Pump fake. The extra pass, though, perhaps a little too generous here on this Christmas morning. Jenkins couldn't handle it, and a wrestling match on the hardwood. Tie up his called possession arrow will keep it in the direction of the Patriots.
Exactly right. A little too unselfish by Johnny Williams. He wonderful pump fake, got the defense off his feet, took the dribble. That's a great shot fake. So he should have elevated and taken the shot. Now down just 5 with 2.5 to play. Let's see if George Mason could get something off of a baseline out of bounds situation here.
We'll have Wright matched up against Holt. Backing in on him. It got poked away. 7th turnover for George Mason.
When the double team came down from the top, he should have kicked it to his teammate for a wide open jump shot.
And Levesque, the stutter step. It goes the other way.
Randy Bennett, poor Randy is as frustrated as could be with the turnovers.
7th turnover for St. Mary's to match George Mason, and you see the differential when St. Mary's has that guy, Brad Waldo, on the floor compared to when he's on the sideline.
But when he had the 2 fouls and he put him into the 5-minute mark, they pushed it right back up to 9, and here we are back to 5 again with him sitting. But you know what? He cannot put him in right now. The rest of the half, he has to sit no matter what happens. You've gone this long without him.
And yet another turnover. That's number 8 for George Mason.
And you're seeing George Mason with the pressure. A, they want to get the ball out of Stephen Holt's hands, and B, they might get some benefits for this in the second half because St. Mary's doesn't have a lot of depth. They're trying to wear them down as well.
Terry Carter at the helm here. Now hands it off to Holt. Rubbing off a few screens. Now Levesque looking to let it fly. Sends it up top to Carter. He finds Levesque deep corner. And it'll be a foul on the rebound called against Matt Hodgson.
And this is our third George Mason game. Their defense this morning has been very solid. Paul Hewitt has done a nice job with these guys throughout the tournament. If they could just wrap up possessions with the box out. Now, we had a foul down here on St. Mary's, but pretty good defense by that guy's team right here.
Well, this is a team that won 22 games a season ago, lost in the finals of the College Basketball Invitational to Santa Clara, returned all 5 starters. However, along the way, they lost Jonathan Arledge for the season with a back injury. He suffered a car wreck in the summer, was involved in that incident, and the back never quite got to where he could continue. And so he decided to make the decision to not play the duration of the season. So losing Arledge, a 6'9" senior, that's obviously a blow to the overall scheme of things for George Mason.
It really is. And last year we talked about the number of games they won, but they had Virginia to open the season, they let it get away from them. They had New Mexico by the throat. They were up 67-62 with 53 seconds to play and lost. And then Tony Snell last year made a big 3 for New Mexico. And how about this, Kanoa? In the CAA semifinals, they're up 28-4 to Northeastern in the conference tournament last year and lost. So they have to finish things off better this season.
Hodgson, tough runner. But the rebound pops out to him, and then he knocks it out of bounds. A 3-point game with a .04 on the clock here in the first half. And Randy Bennett, as you mentioned, forced to sit Brad Waldo. Picked up his second foul, sat a stretch. The lead dwindled, put him back in. It ballooned back to 9. And here is George Mason once again on a run.
A one-possession game now. George Mason could hit a 3, and they could go 2 for 1 if they wanted, trying to get a shot maybe with 50 on the game clock. Let's see what the Patriots decide to do.
Holloway loves to come off of that screen at the top and pull the trigger.
He is locked and loaded when he's coming off of those screens.
Allen over Hodgson, a tough shot just to get off. He was able to do so. Ball is tipped out of bounds. Who was the one last to touch it?
Todd Appo's looking for a little help.
And there hasn't been an official signal yet. Now, all of a sudden, Don Daly looks at the official scorers table and points in the direction of St. Mary's, and Paul Hewitt beside himself.
We didn't get a signal for... all the officials were looking at each other.
About a 4-second differential between the shot clock and game clock. St. Mary's will look to tick it as far down as possible. Five seconds to shoot. Here's Levesque. Wide open underneath. Hodgson smashes it. 2 seconds, 1 second. It's Allen at the horn. And that's how this first half will come to a close. It ends on a Matt Hodgson dunk, which brings the St. Mary's advantage heading into the locker rooms to 5, 31-26.
And Paul Hewitt not happy at all with the officiating on the defensive side of the basketball as well. That's why they have that plus 13 when he's in the basketball game.
And St. Mary's will control to get the second half started. Waldo with those 2 fouls. That's why he sat the majority of that first half. Fortunately for Randy Bennett and his team, though, they did not give up the lead, allowing him to keep him on the bench. Here's Walker. Up in. They will wave off the basket, and they will call an offensive foul against Walker. Walker, who had 13 points in 17 minutes of action in the first half. It goes the other way.
Well, they're closing out hard on him because he's a three-point shooter, and I like the call. I like the call. I thought he was set before Walker went into his upward motion, and a good call by the officials on the play. Now, early in the possession, they were really trying to get the ball to Brad Waldo, trying to reestablish him to come out the second half. He just has to make sure he's working harder to get it. I like what George Mason was doing, fronting him in the low post. It's so much harder, Kanoa, to play a big guy after he catches it. Let's play him before he catches it. Let's deny the ball into the post to him, and George Mason did that possession.
And George Mason controls. start this second half. And they work right down low on the block, and he dribbles it off of his leg and out of bounds.
They're trying to post him, but what Sherrod Wright needs to do when he catches is play with a little more patience and poise in the low post.
10th turnover for George Mason. St. Mary's had 7 at halftime. And Gale's able to break that George Mason pressure. Holt, extra pass, it's Carter for 3. And it'll be a pushing foul called against Johnny Williams, and his mouth is agape following that whistle.
It's so difficult for both of the teams to get into any kind of flow offensively. Put two hands on a guy's back, that's going to be called. That was a good call again.
Holt for 3. That falls short. Waldo had a fingertip on it. Holt able to corral it, and he's fouled in the process by Marko Gujanicic.
Like we were saying, it's difficult to get into an offensive flow when there's so many fouls being called, whether it's St. Mary's or George Mason. Defend without fouling.
Waldo trying to go deep corner, and it was broken up. Allen on the run. It's a foot race, and he wins it.
Explosive speed from Brian Allen.
He's got 6 points, and it's down to a 3-point advantage here for St. Mary's. Early part of the second half. Holt able to get it across. And goes all the way to the 10. Can't hit Waldo, the offensive board, and follow up.
And there's his presence being felt right on the inside. If he doesn't score it off the pass, the second shot, you have to put a body on him and drive him out of the green, the paint area.
Just his second rebound of this game. The response, though, nicely done. Marquise Moore been dealing with a bit of an ankle issue throughout this season. But the freshman able to finish the job on that drive.
And when they do take the ball out of Stevens Holt's hands with the pressure, I'm impressed with James Walker. Not only can he shoot it, he handles it well.
Waldo deep in the lane.
And you hear the George Mason staff yelling, go. You have to make a decision when Waldo has it. Are we going to trap him on the catch? Are we going to wait till he dribbles? They need to get there a little sooner if they're going to double him.
He's played 9+ minutes. Waldo has 10 points, 5 of 5 from the field, and he collects that rebound on the miss.
Now you see George Mason switching on the perimeter, and as a coach you ask yourself, what gets you beat, the mismatch or the open shot? It's the open shot.
Extra pass from Waldo. Levesque, the open shot, not there that time for him.
Too flat. He didn't get enough extension or lift. He has to get his legs in his shot a little bit more.
Williams against Waldo. Tough shot, rebound, Levesque.
You know what I would have rather Williams done? Waldo has 2 fouls. Take the ball right to his chin instead of that fadeaway left-handed jump hook. Nice pass.
And good hands exhibited there by the big guy, and Waldo fouled, and he'll go to the free throw line.
Beautiful pocket pass right in between the 2 defenders from Stephen Holt. Those are the plays that Dellavedova made last year. I don't know if there was a better ball screen point guard in the country last year than Matthew Dellavedova. And Stephen Holt took a page from that book.
Randy Bennett also lost assistant coach Rick Croy, who left the staff to become head coach at Cal Baptist University, and he refers to it as losing 2 assistants by not having Dellavedova out there, an extension of the coaching staff on the floor.
When you have a guy like Dellavedova that we had like with Chris Paul and Jeff Teague, I would say give him the ball at 7 o'clock and ask it back for it at like 9:30. You trusted him. Give him the keys to the car. You don't have to worry about it.
And that's easy.
And that's what he had with Matthew Dellavedova.
Allen, good reverse maneuver. Rebound off to Levesque.
A good look for George Mason.
George Mason shooting 37% for the game. And yeah, getting some looks. They're not necessarily falling, though, here on the final day of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic.
But that's happened all year long for George Mason. They're getting really good looks at the basket, difficult time finishing.
Waldo, an offensive foul. That's number 3. for Brad Waldo.
And the thing about Sherrod Wright, he didn't start the last game. Coach Hewitt sent him a message, but he's really picked up his play, not only on the offensive end, but on the defensive end as well. Watch when the ball's in the air. Here comes Sherrod Wright. Boy, I don't know about that one, though. Give him credit for coming over, but as soon as that guy goes into his upward motion, that's supposed to be a block, and I think it was.
So Waldo sits.
I'm not being too hard on these officials, like I did on the sidelines for all those years.
Putting the broadcasting version of Cole in their stocking here.
That was absolutely a block.
So opportunity knocking here for George Mason with Waldo seated. And Jenkins able to take advantage and attack deep.
Exactly. If Waldo's in there, he's a rim protector. You don't get to the rim that easily on Brad Waldo.
Levesque wide open for three. Didn't want it. Now it's Walker. Offensive board, Hodgson, and he's fouled from behind by Jenkins.
It's amazing. Soon as Waldo goes out, here comes George Mason. They make a little run back. A three-point game in Hawaii.
And out of the timeout, it's Matt Hodgson at the free throw line. Now 6 of 13 on the season.
And again, you tell your guys on a scouting report, if he gets away from you, Hodgson, and he has an angle, let's go ahead and put him on the strike.
Started his college career at Southern Utah before making his way to Moraga. The lead now 4 here for St. Mary's. George Mason looking to try to post right up at any given opportunity. Holloway three try, no. Jenkins fights hard for the rebound.
And Jalen Jenkins has really gained extra possessions for George Mason with his offensive rebound and keeping the ball alive when he couldn't grab it.
Almost a botched handoff there.
And the reason for that, Holt, Kerry Carter, when he's in there, really playing those guys hard off the handoffs.
Allen, the leaner, left it a little short, got it back. Missed again from up close. And it goes out of bounds. Last touched by Jenkins. It belongs to the Gales.
But the George Mason big guys working inside, keeping the basketball alive. And that guy right there, Jalen Jenkins, has done a very good job on the offensive end for George Mason. Tipping balls.
Yeah, we were just alluding to it, Coach, that microcosm right there on that play of opportunities, looks at the basket, just not falling for George Mason. Levesque.
When guys would miss layups, we'd say, fellas.
Nice pass to Hodgson, and it gets wedged against the rim and the glass. 4 fouls picked up by Eric Coates.
Now, you can't fan. In other words, you can't miss that when you're coming over to help. If you can't get the basketball, just face up. They had a charge call on the big fellow, Waldo, on a prior possession like that when they threw the lob over the top. So if you can get it, get it. If not, just body up inside.
The rest of the day's action here on the final day of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. Oregon State and Hawaii at 4 Eastern on ESPNU. Third place game, Akron and South Carolina at 6:30. And then the final, which should be a good one, Iowa State and Boise State.
So many of these teams in this tournament can really score the basketball. Oregon State, Hawaii, both averaging over 80 points a game.
Here's Wright. Goes cross-court, dangerous pass, but it finds Allen. 15 seconds on the shot clock. Wright working off the screen set by Williams. And he takes it down the lane. The finish not there. Rebound Levesque.
Good contest by Matt Hodgson.
And the Gales will slow things down.
St. Mary's has been the more efficient team in the half court. See, Hodgson had position in the lane. Stay in there, get big, sit down in the post, and they'll deliver the ball to you.
And it's back to an 8-point advantage here for St. Mary's.
52 of his 65 shots on the season now from behind the three-point line.
And a timeout taken by George Mason. 40-32, an 8-point advantage for St. Mary's. Percentages now that won't necessarily awe-inspire people. 39% for St. Mary's, 34% for George Mason. How much of that is the defense being played?
I think there is some good defense being played. And as long as they keep guys in front of them, George Mason, they'll claw their way back, but penetration has hurt them.
Holt trying to get to the baseline, cut off there by Allen. Now Walker.
Two good jobs by George Mason of taking away, we just talked about, dribble penetration.
10 seconds to shoot. Walker. Now Holt. Carter off the dribble. That one in and out. Hodgson reaches high up for the offensive board.
Johnny Williams, number 2, drive Hodgson out of the green, out of the paint on the shot. See, guys coming off of those ball screens have to come shoulder to hip.
And Hodgson, who they found wide open underneath for a dunk to close the first half, was pretty open again there, but missed the short chip shot, and he'll go to the free throw line to shoot 2, fouled by Marquise Moore, who has picked up his 4th foul.
And once again, those have to be conventional three-point plays for Matt Hodgson. Go up there stronger. We talked earlier about when the St. Mary's guards, when the ball screen, when they have the ball in their hand and the big guy screening for them, there's too much space between the dribbler and the screener, which enables the defender to slide through there. I like Matt Hodgson. I like his size. He has a nice touch. Just has to play a game a little lower, get a little lower. He has better balance, and he'll be a little bit stronger if he does that.
1 of 2 from the line on that trip. Here's Holloway. The teardrop.
I'm not sure before he let it go if he wanted to shoot it, but he found the cup.
He's got 9 on 3 of 6 shooting from the floor. Levesque ahead of the pack. Deep position, now looking to pass it off.
Good hustle by Jalen Jenkins for George Mason, sprinting back to cover Matt Hodgson.
Try to get it into Hodgson, poked out by Jenkins.
See how he allows Jenkins to push him off of the block area. Sit down in there, big fella, and get lower.
Walker, tough reverse. Didn't hit anything, and it's going to come the other way. Opportunity here for the Patriots, perhaps. Wright will slow it down. Very
good decision by Sherrod Wright. It wasn't there. They didn't have anything. Let's pull it out and execute in the half court.
Nobody in double figures scoring yet for George Mason. Holloway leads with 9. Wright has 7, and here he is on the baseline. Eight seconds to shoot. Moore spins deep in the lane. Tough layup is good.
Tough is an understatement on that one. Hard drive, quick spin, and a beautiful touch.
The freshman Moore making just his 2nd start of the season.
St. Mary's just can't shake George Mason.
Levesque, this is a hefty 3, and it sails out of bounds. Marquise Moore, this was something to behold here on this Christmas morning.
Starts with the crossover, the quick spin. And loved how he stayed with the shot for the finish. Watch his eyes. Always on the rim. Can't call the kids. He can't be speaking to the assistants, but it's a difficult situation.
Yeah, no texting, no emailing, none of that stuff.
Nothing.
So you're sitting at home watching the game, and not much you can do. That's got to be difficult for any coach.
Yeah, it has to be extremely difficult. But, you know, when you're in a league, you want everybody doing things the right way. You want a level playing field. And You didn't have that at St. Mary's, but a very good coach. I think he understands the ramifications of his actions.
And he's confident in his staff. Adam Caporn, Marty Clark, Ron Ganat has not selected who will act as the head coach in his absence. But speaking with assistant Ron Ganat prior to this game, he said, you know, we all get along. We all seem to be on the same page. I think we'll be fine. The strong take by Gujanicic results in an and one three-point opportunity.
And Marco does it in a variety of ways. He can shoot the three, as we saw earlier. He could take the ball to the basket. And the thing that's impressing me most today about Marco Gujanicic is how well he's defended. He's had to guard guards for St. Mary's, and he's done a very good job of it.
He's doubled his scoring production from a season ago here in his sophomore campaign, although coming into this game averaging just 5 points in the previous two Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic outings. But look at this score. It is down to 2. Waldo back on the floor here for St. Mary's, playing with 3 fouls. They try to set up Waldo in the post. Here he is.
Well, let's see if the double team comes.
The kick up top, the 3 by Jackson. Garrett Jackson knocks it down.
And Waldo saw Marco Gujanicic coming at him, and he found the open man.
And that is Jackson's first made three-pointer of this season. Gujanicic fouled on the drive. Jackson, who was just 0 for 3 from outside the line coming into this game.
Impressed with Gujanicic taking the ball to the basket. Boy, we saw that knee bump the other night with Angus Brandt. It'll be interesting to see if he goes this afternoon. Hopefully he does for Oregon State. But coming off that ACL, I think it was more of a scare for him than anything else.
Almost an identical scenario as to how it played out for the ACL injury last year. Strong finish that time by Johnny Williams, flashing a little muscle.
I love that he faced up. He went right at Brad Waldo, knowing that he has fouls.
So we got a little ball game here to get this Christmas Day edition of the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic underway. Holt off the screen, lefty finish.
And they're taking Williams for George Mason out on the floor and putting him in ball screen actions. Waldo has to be careful that when he's screening now that he's set. Pop the floor, in other words, let that official see that you're set.
5 points now for Stephen Holt, a guy averaging 13 a game, but compound that with a turnover by George Mason at the other end, and St. Mary's has it up a handful, 8:21 to go. See the assist numbers for Holt. Had a season high 8 assists in the last second loss to Hawaii the other night.
Now, one of the things that George Mason needs to do, they've extended their defense with their pressure, but they haven't been able to turn, with the press, turn over St. Mary's. And Paul, you know Gujanicic has good athleticism when you put him on the top of your press, and he's a trapper.
Giusti brings it across for St. Mary's. And a 5-second violation as Corey Edwards was up under the chest of Bolevec.
There's no need for that. You have your dribble. You have your dribble. Use it.
11th turnover for St. Mary's.
And not an unintelligent play by a bright player.
Edwards with it, gets it up top now. Allen, the always dangerous scorer. They work it to Williams in the post against Waldo, playing with those 3 fouls. Couldn't do much else but just try to stand and alter the shot.
And you love what Paul Hewitt's doing. Let's go at the big guy. Let's put foul pressure on him. You know he doesn't want to foul, and I like the aggressive move by Johnny Williams.
8 points now for Williams, 46-43. Chance to tie this game with a 3.
If I'm George Mason, I'm going right back to Johnny Williams.
And a foul away from the basketball as Giusti was trying to work around the screen to follow Holloway. Well aware of how much Holloway likes to come off that curl and pop it from the top.
But St. Mary's has done a good job of trying to push those guys off of the screen, but it cost them that time.
That's the 15th foul against St. Mary's. Here's Allen along the baseline. Williams squares up, clangs it off the heel, and then a foul called against George Mason. It's going to go against Anale Okoloji.
See, Johnny Williams, like the prior two possessions, he gets the ball and drives the big fella. So don't settle for that 10, 12-foot jump shot. Take the ball and attack Brad Waldo like you did the prior two times you had it.
Third foul on Okoloji. More importantly, 18th foul, which means free throws in the one-on-one form for Stephen Holt.
Now, Stephen Holt goes to the free throw line, a wonderful free throw shooter, 83% coming into the game.
Had a game against Akron, second game of the year, where he went 12 for 12 from the free throw line, and that set the school accuracy percentage record.
George Mason just can't get over the hump. A couple times they had the ball with a chance to tie.
The double clutch hang in the air effort by Allen results in a foul.
And that's what you want to do. You want to take the ball to Brad Waldo. That's what you want to do. Drive the big fella. Put foul pressure on him. I'm sorry, Kanoa.
No, that's number 4 on Waldo.
And that's what Johnny Williams should have done the prior possession for George Mason.
Hits the free throw. And so Waldo will have to sit once again. Matt Hodgson comes on. How long you figure this break's going to last for Brad Waldo?
I think under 5 minutes you probably come back with him. So you sit him on the bench, and say, hey, listen, okay, now you understand you have 4, catch your breath. Make sure there are no illegal screens when you go back in. You're not going over anyone's back. But the challenge for him isn't those two things. It's trying to guard the basketball when guys are driving it at him.
Back to a one-possession game. Inbound goes to Holt. Here comes the trap. And Giusti brings it across.
A lot of different guys can handle the ball for St. Mary's.
Again, Levesque left to hold it. Now hands it off to Stephen Holt. Down the lane, lefty lane is good.
And he has really played well today off of the ball screen, Stephen Holt.
9 points for Holt, who has scored double figures in 8 of the previous 11 games. Back to a 5-point advantage here for St. Mary's. Allen gets it deep to Williams. Shot just trickles off the iron, but the foul is called against Hodgson.
I'd say Stephen Holt has been impressive. He's coming off of ball screens. He comes off hard, uses his offhand. What you like about this play, how he extended the ball to get it away from the defender.
Johnny Williams to the free throw line, as Holt has a word with head coach Randy Bennett. Williams sat out 2 seasons ago with a torn labrum. Missed the second half of last season after suffering a brutal concussion. But he benefited from the 2 weeks off for George Mason prior to this tournament, a chance at least health-wise to kind of get back in the swing of things.
Paul Hewitt said that it served them really well. It hasn't manifested itself in the tournament thus far, but guys were able to get healthy. Guys were practicing hard, getting better.
Oh, putting the head down and getting it to the front court to Levesque, who's fouled as he tried to rock it.
And if you're George Mason, you're making a decision. Is the press helping us or hurting us? And can't give up baseline like Brian Allen does right there. Or sideline, I should say.
First foul on Allen, 9th team foul. So 1-on-1 opportunity here for or it was a shooting foul, I should say. So 2-shot opportunity here for Bo Levesque, who comes in as a 92% free throw shooter, and he was haunted over the last 48 hours because it was at the end of the Hawaii game. He got fouled, hit a bucket, had an and-one opportunity, and Levesque went to the free throw line, would have given St. Mary's the lead, but at the time a 94% free throw shooter had just missed 2 free throws on the season, left it well short. That led to the Christian Stan Hardinger heroics for Hawaii with just over a second left.
33 from 36 from the line coming into today, and then he makes those 2, but the ones he missed were critical.
And a 3 goes down for Holloway.
Now we have a 2-point game, and as I mentioned before, George Mason, do they need to extend and press without Brad Waldo in there, because St. Mary's has labored to score a little bit in the half court.
12 points now for Holloway, 2 of 3 from outside the arc, and it's down to a 2-point game. Holt controls, under 15 on the shot clock. Once again, Brad Waldo on the bench with 4 fouls for St. Mary's. Holt will earn his way to the line. That'll be the 10th team foul on George Mason. So whether or not it was in the act, 2 shots coming for Stephen Holt.
And I like Stephen Holt's patience when he's coming off of the ball screen. He has a good hesitation to his dribble, allows for the big guy who showed on the play to start retreating back on defense, and that's when he attacks the basket.
Father Greg played hoops at Portland. Holt, who was known for his tenacity as a defender, instantly led the West Coast Conference in steals as a freshman.
He could be a very good defender. Obviously, with his size, he's 6'4", 195. But I think he's going to have a very good year in conference.
St. Mary's preseason pick to finish 3rd in the West Coast Conference, behind Gonzaga at 1 and BYU at 2. And here's a takeaway by Walker. He picked his pocket.
Now, if you're St. Mary's, you go right back to the ball screen action with Stephen Holt.
Here goes Holt, too strong on the effort. Pass deflected. Williams with it, working against Hodgson, goes up and under, up, in, and 1.
And that's where the big fella needs to do his work, inside. Forget about that little 10, 12-foot jump shot. He's strong, he plays big, up and under moves.
3rd foul on Hodgson. That's the 8th team foul for St. Mary's. 3-point opportunity here for Williams. A 67% free throw shooter coming into this game. 2 for 2 from the line here today. And he gets the roll. It's a 1-point contest with 4:45 to go.
And if you're Randy Bennett, you're asking yourself, how long do I leave my star on the bench, Brad Waldo? Is it as long as I have the lead, I keep him out? But I know one thing, he's going to come back with him pretty soon.
This game an indication of just how valuable Brad Waldo is to this St. Mary's team. Walker got deep in the lane. Now Carter.
Wow, tough shot.
Got it up.
And what St. Mary's did on offense that time, dribble handoffs by the guard, opened up the lane. One guy tried to take it down. If it wasn't there, he flipped it to his teammate. And a very good finish by Kerry Carter.
I think even he's still trying to figure out how he got that shot up and in.
But because they don't have a post presence, they're really utilizing their guards on offense. And what a nice floater by Brian Allen.
Beautiful runner there by Allen.
Now watch St. Mary's on offense opening up the lane.
They get it to Hodgson. The repost. Turnaround shot. He's fouled. He'll go to the line. This goes against Brian Allen. But take another look here at Kerry Carter. Houdini-like.
Good left hand.
Defensive pressure.
Good left hand, strong drive. And the floater by Allen. And it goes.
Continues to watch from the bench. 4 fouls. He's got 10 points, 2 rebounds, 5 of 5 from the field, but has been hurt by foul trouble the entirety of this one.
No, you wouldn't put him in the game now because you have a defensive possession coming up for St. Mary's. So,
and an offensive rebound for Walker. They will call a tie-up. It looked like Walker had it, and then reaching around and at least getting a hand on it was Johnny Williams. Walker went tumbling to the floor. It was a tie-up ruling. Possession arrow will give it to George Mason.
Now, George Mason just needs to drive and box out on the free throw line, and Johnny Williams doesn't. And I don't know how that ball is a jump ball. I really don't. I have no idea how they call that a jump ball. But because George Mason doesn't box out, they get a favorable call, and now they're going to lose the possession arrow. And let's see if that comes into factor as we go down the stretch.
How long does Randy Bennett wait to bring Waldo back onto the floor?
Well, I don't put him in right now because you're on the defensive end. You don't want him to pick up a fifth playing defense. But if there's a dead ball situation, let's see if Randy puts him in on offense.
Credit to this George Mason crew, though. They have been able to just continue to claw and scratch their way into this game, and they have a chance to take the lead.
They're extremely well coached. They play to the end. A tough loss the other night, 4 points to Oregon State. They were in the game the entire way, and they're right here again this afternoon.
They have yet to lead in this game. They can establish that if they score on this possession, but it will not be on this trip down the floor. An illegal screen.
And Paul Hewitt is incredulous. And what we talked about, Kanoa, you're seeing Randy come back with Brad Waldo when they have an offensive possession.
That foul called against Johnny Williams. That's his third. You saw Waldo, what he's done in this tournament from the field. 20 of 27, 5 for 5 in this game, and he is back out there. So exactly what you said, Coach. They get the ball back after the defensive possession, bring Waldo back for the offensive end.
And I wouldn't be surprised, dead ball situations, they take him back out if it happens to be on the defensive end. But he's in there now. I'm going to him.
Comes up to try to set a screen for Holt. Now Carter trapped in the corner. Cross-court pass. A whistle is blown.
And I think the bench for St. Mary's called timeout.
That is what they are ruling. They are granting Randy Bennett and the bench a timeout, and an incredulous smile. St. Mary's trying to snap a 2-game losing streak. George Mason trying to break a 4-game drought. 7 seconds to shoot, and it'll go the other way anyway. As Holt, trying to collect himself, slid the feet. He's called for steps. 12 turnovers now for St. Mary's, and once again, George Mason with a chance to claim the lead with under 3 minutes to go.
And Coach Bennett leaves Waldo in defensively with just under 3 minutes to play, but very good ball screen defense. The big guy for George Mason Williams showed hard, which forced the turnover by St. Mary's.
Here's Allen driving against Holt. The runner in the lane. It's good. First lead of the game for the Patriots. Allen has 12.
And he has really emerged as one of the two guys we talked about before the game in our one-on-one. He has played outstanding in this tournament.
Paul Hewitt already refers to Allen as the vocal leader of this team. Doing it with his play on the floor as well. So now St. Mary's for the first time playing from behind.
You have to give the post a second look if you're St. Mary's.
Levesque fell and turned it over. And it'll be Moore bringing it across the timeline. He'll get it to Allen. George Mason can set it up. 2 minutes to play.
St. Mary's on offense when Waldo rolls. Give him a second look.
And Paul Hewitt doing some coaching on the sideline, shouting instructions at his team. Holloway, 3 up, 3 down. Timeout, St. Mary's.
The two guards for George Mason have really stepped up. He needs to touch the ball inside on this possession.
Closing in on 1.5 minutes to go.
And George Mason just picks up full court man-to-man, not pressing, opening up the court for St. Mary's. Now Waldo screen. Now look for him inside. There he is.
Here he is working against Guyanicic. Backing him down. Ball poked away. It's out to Walker for three. Rebound, Allen. James Walker III, who had 13 points in 17 minutes in the first half. He has been held scoreless since the intermission.
And he had a good look off the double team by George Mason in the post. Waldo found him. He just couldn't knock it down.
Under a minute to play.
You'll see George Mason hold the ball, and at the end of the shot clock, probably go with a ball screen.
It'll be a one-on-one matchup against Holt. He goes underneath. Couldn't spin it off the glass, but he does draw the whistle, and he'll go to the free throw line.
And I like what Paul Hewitt did that possession. He just went 1-4 flat. He didn't bring anybody up the screen. But once again, free throws, the difference in the game. G. Mason, 15 for 16. And that's been a problem for St. Mary's throughout the tournament.
St. Mary's, meanwhile, 10 of 18 from the line, so not able to take advantage of the free throw opportunities they've been presented. And here is Brian Allen. First miss from the line there. He's now 4 of 5.
He comes in shooting 75% from the free throw line. 15 of 20 coming into today's game. Needs to get 1 of 2 of these for George Mason.
To make it a 5-point game. It's now 61-56. Holt, St. Mary's is going to need something in a hurry. Levesque will try a three and knock it down. Timeout, Randy Bennett and his crew.
And give Levesque credit. He struggled a little bit this afternoon, especially from behind the three-point line. And Jalen Jenkins just lost him. He showed on the screen. He has to get out there and make Levesque put the basketball on the floor.
Gold and Boise State will match up in the championship game later tonight. This is a St. Mary's team that beat Boise State at Boise, and in fact, Bo Levesque hit a clutch three-pointer down the stretch in that game to help seal the win.
Well, he just hit one this afternoon as well. Now, 2-second differential on the game clock, so you know St. Mary's has to foul.
And they do. It is Carter delivering the foul to Marquise Moore. Both teams over the 10-foul limit, so Moore will get a pair of free throws. Meanwhile, Marko Gujanicic squatted down for a moment. Looked like he may have been poked in the eye or nipped along the way. But he looks to be okay.
Now, Moore comes into today's game 4 for 5 from the free throw line. So let's see if the freshman can deliver.
Misses the first one.
Really flat on that first free throw attempt. Let's get the ball up over the rim. Elbow up a little bit higher.
Played at St. Thomas More High School in Connecticut. Same prep school as Brian Allen. He gets the second one, so a 3-point advantage. Very important that he hit that shot. 30.8 on the clock.
Now, if you're Paul Hewitt, you're telling your guys, fellas, let's perimeter-wise switch all screens. We can't allow them to make a 3-point field goal. We get the ball back at least up 1.
Levesque thought about it, and now Carter.
They switch the ball screen right here. That's why you see Gujanicic on Kerry Carter.
Holt, he's going to turn the corner against Williams and draw the whistle. So the clock will freeze. Shot didn't go, but a chance for Holt to get within a point with 13.9 left to go.
Yeah, which, if nothing else, just let him get to the basket. You don't want to make a foul right there where the clock stops. Now, if you're Randy Bennett at St. Mary's, there's a couple guys, and the young freshman has just went 1 for 2 from the free throw line. He's a guy you might want to get. But situational coaching is real important right here. Trying to get maybe a 5 count, and as soon as it comes in, we want a foul.
Waldo sits with 4 fouls. Levesque commits the foul for St. Mary's. Trailing by 1, 13.1. left to play.
Now, Johnny Williams comes in shooting 67, but for today, 3 for 3 from the free throw line.
He picked up his 4th foul at the other end, but right now it's all about these free throws. 13 points, 4 rebounds for Johnny Williams.
And sometimes that's all it comes down to. Did we box out? Did we defend? Sometimes it's just, did we make free throws?
And that one just rims out on him. Waldo back in. Little drama here on Christmas morning in Honolulu.
Now, we know St. Mary's does not need the 3, whether the free throw goes in or not. So let's see if we go ball screen action with Waldo and Holt or James Walker.
Second one is good. Substitution coming in for George Mason, so that pauses things momentarily. Okoloji will come in replacing Williams. No timeouts left for St. Mary's.
I like high ball screen in this situation. Stephen Holt has come off and gotten to the basket a few times, but when you're going to the basket, it puts foul pressure on the defense.
Here's Walker. Puts his head down, goes to the rim, fouled by Gujanicic. And James Walker III, a 76% free throw shooter, to the line to try and tie this one up.
And like you said, drive the ball to the basket. Let's be aggressive. Gujanicic picks him up. But a good call. He did foul him, but I like the play out of St. Mary's. Fellas, let's attack the rim and be aggressive.
Walker scoreless in this second half after 13 first half points. And does not get the bounce.
Now, St. Mary's has no timeouts. George Mason with 2.
So what do you do?
Well, if they have, what Paul Hewitt needs to do, if it was me, on the make, I would call timeout and set up an OB play or baseline, going the length of the court where I'm getting it to my best free throw shooter.
So you don't consider missing this on purpose yet with 7 seconds left?
I don't think so. You have plenty of time.
He gets the roll. Here comes the inbound to Allen, and he's fouled by Holt.
Yeah, they have plenty of time. Now, if Holt makes both, of course, they have to come down and absolutely have to take a 3. But 1 of 2 again, you're driving the basketball the length of the floor. We had a situation one time where we had the ball on the baseline, 3.9 seconds to go, had the length of the court to go. Now, he's a special player, but Chris Paul was able to take the ball all the way to the basket. Coach Fraschilla, one of our colleagues, talks a lot about for every second on the clock, that's a dribble you could take. So they have plenty of time to take it up the floor. But let's see if they need a 3 or a 2 contingent on these free throws.
Allen splashes the first one through. He's now 6 of 7 from the charity line. Waldo back in for St. Mary's.
Now continuing with the strategy. If you're up 3, does Paul Hewitt foul or does he play his base defense? And you know what? There's no right or wrong. You make that decision in October. I was a big believer in fouling.
Second one is good.
Now let's see. Coach Hewitt calls timeout. Let's see what he does with his defense. Up 3 points.
15 points for Brian Allen. What do you think about that decision?
Well, I like to put a guy on a ball, but what you're going to see is a guy swing around to it.
Inbound goes to Holt. 3 to tie, like, and he's fouled at midcourt. You called it, Coach. Brian Allen committing the reach in.
I like the call. I believe in the philosophy. The percentages are with you. Now, here's the big thing. We got to make sure we box out on the free throw line.
And Randy Bennett will bring Hodgson in to line up across from Waldo, because you're going to have to make this free throw and you're going to have to miss the second one on purpose and try to see if you can get the tap in, or perhaps it bounces out for a 3. Try something.
Now, it's a lot harder than you think to miss a free throw. You know, we would have guys practice missing free throws. Guys would shoot air balls, not hit the rim, hit the backboard.
Or make it.
Yeah, or make it. So we got to box out hard and drive out right now.
There's the miss. The box out and retrieval by Anale Okoloji. And 2 seconds on the clock, foul committed. So it's not quite done yet. But Okoloji with a chance to put George Mason up 2 possessions. Anale Okoloji suspended for the Oklahoma game, the game prior to the tournament, for conduct unbecoming in the South Florida game. Stepped on USF point guard Anthony Collins. Hewitt called it inexcusable. But going into this tournament, he said he served his punishment. He is available, and he has played some key minutes for this team here in the Hawaiian Airlines Diamond Head Classic. Misses the first free throw, however.
Still life. Now the problem, St. Mary's, Randy Bennett cannot set anything up. He doesn't have a timeout to call. But I definitely putting somebody on the basketball right now. Defensively.
Misses the second one. It'll be a heave by Waldo, length of the floor. Well, that would have been quite the Christmas gift. It wasn't meant to be, and St. Mary's has lost for the third straight game. Paul Hewitt's George Mason's Patriots have broken their 4-game losing streak.
A great win for George Mason. They were in the game